Right, so today I want to talk about this tweet or even story from Tom Quiggin. No, Tom Quiggin is pretty much in fact, he is a national security expert, probably one of Canada's top national security experts. He's worked for the RCMP, CSIS. I believe he worked for the military as well. So, yeah, he has tons of experience and he's very outspoken. And when it comes to talking about political Islam and the threat that it poses to Canada and to the West as a whole. Um, he does have a book called Submission. It's a very good book. Again, and check him out too. He has a podcast. Follow him on Twitter. Again, very, very insightful guy. So make sure you follow. At the very least, check out his podcast. It's called The Quiggin Report, and follow him on Twitter as well. But anyway, he links to a story here. 90% of the 43,000 extremists on the MI5 list are Islamic terror suspects. So again, thanks to mass immigration, probably, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars needs to be, again, this is in the UK, but I mean, the numbers in Canada are growing as well, and in the States. Um, Hundreds of millions of dollars are probably spent every year monitoring these people because people that are on these terror watch lists, they need to be monitored. In fact, a lot of these people are even monitored literally 24/7, in that they have literally a police or MI5 or in Canada, I don't know, CSIS and US FBI or CIA detail that literally is surveilling these people 24/7. Now, not obviously not all of them. I don't know what the percentage is. I'm sure that's classified. It's not publicly available, but I do know from people that have former FBI, former CIA that I've literally seen say. I mean, Tom Quiggin, I believe, mentioned it as well before that some of these people literally need to be watched 24/7. And when you're paying people, um, you are paying people to watch someone 24/7 is incredibly expensive. And not only that, like I mentioned, most of these people are allowed into the country thanks to mass immigration. Again, this is just one of the it seems like infinite reasons why mass immigration does not work. And again, to for anyone who doesn't already know, to clarify my position on immigration, I'm fine with immigration, assuming it's not going to disturb the existing population as a whole. Basically, meaning if the unemployment rate's too high, if it's above, I don't know, 4 or 5%, there should be no immigration, and I mean literally none. Um, and the other thing too is the whole family reunification garbage should not exist either. I mean, the only way immigration should exist in the first place, and this is again going for if Wexit ever does happen, and anybody who's big on Wexit, you should take note of this because I think that would be one of the many problems of Wexit is if they just flat out leave and don't implement a system that prevents Wexit or Western Alberta, whatever you want to call it, from ending up in the same place that Canada does. Because mark my words, and I would guarantee this that if there's no um, very stringent things written right into the Constitution that would prevent Alberta and/or Saskatchewan from falling into the same ways Canada did. It will happen because what will happen is that if Alberta and Saskatchewan left and they actually implemented some free market policies, they would become very rich, at least compared to the rest of Canada, and when you're a rich country, poor people want to come to that country to get some of the wealth. And if there's a democracy, and if the governments are allowed to run massive deficits and to buy votes, a party will come up because again there's a lot of money and power involved with becoming, if you become prime minister, you're going to be a multimillionaire. I mean, especially, I mean, if you even halfway try, like, I mean, look at Justin Trudeau. The guy's, enriched himself to some degree. I mean, you look at the presidents as well. Trump is the one president that's their net worth has went down, at least the recent ones, when they're in power. So the problem when it comes to politics is that there's a lot of power involved with it, and there's a lot of power hungry people, which means those power hungry people will be drawn to that position. And because they're more worried about gaining power than actually helping out the population as a whole, they will just buy votes. So again, what will happen is people will be like, yeah, we'll give you welfare, we'll give you the vote, we'll give you this, we'll give you that if you just vote for us. And then Immigration will flood Alberta and Saskatchewan, and we'll end up right back where Canada is right now, basically. So that is the one big thing when it comes to that, is if it does happen, if Wexit does happen, I mean, for starters, I think a good way of putting it is that immigration cannot exist unless the unemployment rate is below, I don't know, whatever the number you want to set it at, but that number should be pretty low, probably 4, at most 5%. The other big thing that would need to be implemented is the government cannot run deficits, because if the government of Canada was not able to run deficits, they wouldn't be able to have mass immigration. It's literally not possible. And the other thing when it comes to immigration too is that um, people do not. I mean, for starters, people should have to be contributing to the system. They need to be working. They need to be paying taxes. And I would say that people should need to be working and paying taxes for at least 5 years, maybe 10 years before they can draw any benefits from the existing system. Because the problem when it comes to immigration is that if there's not a high barrier to entry, then literally everybody wants to come across the world, which I think in theory is a good thing. We should be, in theory, because it doesn't work out in actual reality, we should be taking in poor people. The problem is that the poor people just want to come because they want the free stuff that Canada or the States or the West has to provide. And they come and they're massive net negatives on the system. They take out hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars over their lifetime, and they put in next to nothing. And that's the problem with immigration, is that immigrants from the third world are far more likely to take more out of the system than they put in. And again, the numbers are very clear on that. I've made multiple videos about it, so nobody can question that. Um, and the problem is that the government of Canada wants to continue to increase immigration from the third world, which means the more they do that, the more that gap is going to continue to grow. So the only thing that they can do to make up for that gap is to either increase taxes, which you can only do so much before people, are up in arms, or just flat out vote you out, or just run massive deficits, which is exactly what they're going to be doing. And the problem with massive deficits is eventually you devaluate your currency, and things go the way of Venezuela. And that's where Canada's headed too. Like people are so ignorant and dumb that if Canada keeps going the way they're going, we are headed the way of Venezuela. I mean, people think that, again, it's the biggest mistake throughout history. It's people thinking that it can't happen to them. Like, oh, it'll never happen to us. It's different. Like, even though people have said that throughout history, probably hundreds of thousands of times. So that's the big problem. But getting back to the whole massive, or the whole extremist thing, is that why do we put up with this? Like, seriously, I don't understand why we put up with this. I mean, we have massive, homelessness, a growing homelessness problem. We have, I mean, veterans that are being, kicked to the curb, not getting the benefits they were promised. We have, a lot of poor people that are, were in Canada, that have paid taxes their whole life, or most of their life, and the government's turning a blind eye to them, and they're turning around and giving all their benefits that they were promised to immigrants that didn't pay into the system. And that's the problem when it comes to immigration too, is that I would, like I mentioned, is that I would love to give people free stuff, but the problem is that the minute you do that, more and more and more and more people are going to come and take said free stuff, and the existing population is going to become disenfranchised, and they're going to want the free stuff, and eventually there's no more free stuff to give out, and you have a massive populace who is dependent upon the free stuff, and if you just say no, they'll vote you out. So again, the politicians are screwed when it comes to that. So that is the problem. Now, again, the big thing too is that I don't understand too how people can possibly support that. I mean, we have most of the liberals who want to bring ISIS fighters back to Canada again. Like, what is it going to take for you to not want to bring people from the third world into Canada? No, again, if someone disagrees, if someone's supports the free market, yeah, you support them. I see people all the time. Well, you should go to the States. We don't want you here. But yet, when it comes to you're perfectly fine with ISIS fighters living amongst you, but you're not okay with people who want a free market. Like, again, it just goes to show just how crazy these people are, and just how much they've lost the plot. So anyway, that's the video for today. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. Check out my PayPal and email. I got a link in the description. Again, appreciate any donations, but at the very least, just hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And last couple of things, as always, check me out. Actually, a few things. Check me out on Twitter, check me out on BitChute, and check me out on Parler. All the links are in the description, so you can find them all there.